Just in time for another eBay unboxing. Over 17 packages to unbox soon, so stay tuned and subscribe to my channel. If you're a longtime subscriber of my channel, you know that I've been collecting antiques, and I did mostly antique videos, but I get into kicks, like where I get into where I only collect one thing for a couple of months, and then I move on to the next and the next and the next. So let's go into a relic unboxing. Now, usually I fast forward these, but I noticed something very strange. Now, it's really against the Catholic religion to sell and buy relics, but it doesn't stop people from doing it. And I noticed this is something I got over a month ago. I just didn't open. But I noticed this particular seller, the same person's name and address shows up under different sellers' names. And this guy has the market on relics, apparently. I talked to him under a different eBay user account or seller account, and he admitted to me that he's selling these for priests. And it's so strange because he has multiple, like 5 IDs or seller stores or whatever on eBay selling relics, and you think it's all different people, but it's the same guy. So this is my first holy relic that came with the official documentation. Now I'm going to I think I'm going to laminate this because it's it's old and it's falling apart. But so let's see what relic we got. Now this is from this seller that I told you has multiple selling accounts. And you think you're buying from different buyers, but you're really not. And let's look close at this. It's very dirty, so I'm going to clean it up and be right back. So I just cleaned the glass. And let's take it. Can we see what's inside there? It says B, Pius, PPX. And what does that mean? Okay, so the B means blessed, Pius, PP is Pope, and the 10th. So Pope Pius the 10th. And we have a first-class relic. And if you don't follow my channel, a first-class relic is actually a relic that is of the body of the saint. So this is really important, boys and girls. So a first-class relic is a relic that actually comes from the body of a saint. Second-class relic is something they wore or touched, whether it be wearing of a beret or a hat or a veil or shoes. A third class is when you touch something to the first-class relic, it becomes a third-class relic. There we go. And wow, look at this. All right, so what is it? What is it? Right in that cross that you see, it's ex carne. What's ex carne? In Latin, that means that it's the flesh of the saint. So let's get in there tight if we can. Well, my camera is not very good at macro, but there you go. And this is this is called a teca. A teca is the thing that holds the relic, but you need to put this in a reliquary. Now, I notice a lot of these relics were not cared for. Every single one I get was not. It seems like they were not cared for. Now, to tell also if it's authentic, you flip it over and you take the back off, and it should have a string and wax seal that's intact and unbroken. And here I'm showing you what that looks like. If you don't see a wax seal on the back and you don't see the little threads, let's get in there close, tied on both ends, and it's cut, then it was tampered with. You don't want a tampered with relic. And this one is actually good. It's actually quite good. You see the keys of Pope Pius. That is the keys of Pope Pius. Now, Saint Pope Pius X, actually this one says B in front of it. What does that stand for? Blessed. So this was before he even became a saint, which is even more important. So this says cause on it, something like a postulator. Now, the cause, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. I'm not an expert, but I'm going to tell you what I know. And basically, not too many popes were made saints because a bunch of bishops and archbishops and people, high-ranking officials of the church, need to bring forward a particular person they want to make a saint or canonize. A cause has to go through for them, proving they had a certain amount of miracles, they were very, very holy people, and so on and so forth. And for it to get approved by the actual pope is a lot of hoops to jump through, boys and girls. So it's like pretty wild that we got a pope that's actually a saint as well. Not very many of them. And this was before he became an actual saint, or at least by the B in front of it, which I'll show you in a moment. You can see the B. That means blessed or beatified. That means beatification is the first step to becoming a saint. And so this is strange because I'm looking at the document. Now, he was made a saint in... Let's do our research together, okay? Because I'm not an expert. I don't want to steer anybody wrong. Here's Pope Pius X. I don't know if we can zoom in. Very, very saintly look on his face. I mean, seriously, I know this is like really blasphemous, probably me saying that, but he has like a serene look on his face. Very much, I don't know, there's something about his eyes that are very gentle and kind. But let's find out. He was the Bishop of Rome before he became Pope. His papacy began on August 4th of 1903, and it ended on August 20th of 1914, of course, on his death. His predecessor was Leo the 13th, or Pope Leo the 13th. And successor was Benedict the 15th. And let's see, when was he canonized, if we can find that information? Okay, so he was beatified in 1951 and by Pope Pius the 12th, and canonized on May 29th in 1954 by Pope Pius the 12th. And so beatified in 51, canonized in 1954. Now this pope was anti-modernism. Here's his keys, the keys that we see on the back of the stamp or the wax seal on the relic. And he was anti-modernism. He said the liberal is the wolf in sheep, like a Catholic liberal is a wolf in sheep's clothing. He did not like liberals. And like when we say liberals, we're not talking about a classical liberal. We're talking about the ones that like communism and socialism, basically commies. And so he did not like the progressiveness of, changing the church into a progressive nature. And so he battled against modernism. Now, I can't say I disagree with him. Progressiveness turns everything to shiz. A famous president who's about to be president again once said that. And it's true. Pretty much, people like traditions. We need traditions to stay alive. And this Pope and Saint wanted to restore all things in Christ. And he didn't want people to turn away from Christ, which if you fast forward from his papacy to now, to 2025, a lot of things have changed, boys and girls. The world is becoming wickeder and wickeder. And I'm not saying if you're watching this and you're not religious at all, that you're to blame. But you know what I'm saying? I think I noticed that when people are more faithful to God or a higher being, it doesn't have to be Jesus, people behave better. When I say behave better, if you think about it, in the world, I know this is going to sound like a sermon, but if there's no rules, everybody's going to do something rotten, right? So if there's no rules when it comes to, say, shoplifting, everybody's going to walk into a store and say, oh, I like those new designer shoes. I'm not paying for it. I'm just going to take it. And then somebody else is going to walk in as that person's taking it and say, well, he's taking it. Maybe it's okay for me to take it. And then 10 more people are going to walk in at the same time and say, well, they're not paying for it. Why should I pay for it? So if there's no laws or rules or decency or morals, what happens is society breaks down, boys and girls. And then you get the wild, wild west, if you know what I mean. Let's look at the document. Let's check out this document. My first time ever having a document. If you look on the top, let's go ahead and take a look at that. We have, I think that's the coat of arms of Pope Pius X. It says postulator. And now we have Latin, boys and girls. Causae Sancti Pi Decimi Summi Pontificis. Pontificis? I don't know. Universalis et singulis presentes literas inspectores fidem fascimus. No, not fascist. Ac testim. Okay, we're not going to do this. And it says it's ex carne. So we know this is a first-class relic, boys and girls. And it describes the teca, or I used to pronounce it theca, and it's rotundae, meaning round, metallico. And so we have a round metallic object right there. Okay, let's zoom out. Here we go. And it's dated 1965 by the Postula Causae of St. Pius X. Pope St. Pius X. There's his insignia, signed by the postulator, and I can't even read his name. He has a really, really long first name, so we're not going to attempt that, boys and girls. But what's odd is this is blessed in the beginning, like before he became a saint. So here's what I surmise. This was possibly made before he was actually, this was probably put together before he actually became saint. And it's done. It's done, boys and girls. When popes are actually, when they pass away or die, or they're no longer a pope, well, they can no longer be only pope when they're not alive anymore. What they do is they get his remains and put them in relics, and we'll put B in front of it, or S, B meaning blessed or beatified, or S for saint, and because they're in the hopes that that particular pope will become saint. So this could have been done in, I think, 1951 when he was beatified, or around 1954 when he was canonized. And then they made the document after. That's most likely what happened here. All right, so let's place Pope Pius X in his reliquary. Really quite cool that I have the document. I will have to definitely laminate this because it's going to fall apart. And when you're collecting relics, 9 times out of 10, these original papers are long gone. You don't generally see them because they fall apart, they disintegrate, or people just lose them. And so to tell if your relic is real, like I showed you, you take the back off and you check for the stamp. But that doesn't mean that can't be faked, boys and girls. So you have to be very careful because there are stinkers out there who don't follow the rules of morality. And they put these things together. They make their own wax seal that mimics a real wax seal, and place red candle wax on the back of these, making them look real. And they put chicken bones in these. And you can get the empty tekkas, and put chicken bones and create something. But I know pretty much by collecting for close to a year now, I know what's real and what's not real. And you got to be very careful because there's at least, right now on eBay, at least 1,000 fakes going around selling for $500 or more. I wanted to mention one of the most common relics I have seen on the collecting scene has been Pope Pius X. For some reason, I keep finding Pope Pius X all the time. Now, it's controversial because he did say Catholic liberals are wolves in sheep's clothing. I'm sure a lot of people that vote D don't like him and think he was sort of a jerk for saying that. But, I like him. And they have there's a sspx is a group of people that actually, it's the Society of Pope Pius X, and the church actually threw them out. The official Vatican actually had a fight with them because they wanted to restore all things in Christ through Pope Pius X, and they're sort of a based group of religious people. And so the church has been battling with them for a while. I think they're allowed now, but they're not allowed to give mass or something like that. But there's a lot of people that collect Pope Pius that are based. And when I say based, they don't like the progressive BS of modernism. Remember, modernism is basically that sick, progressive nonsense about it's more of a communist, socialist, like everybody deserves health care. I really do think everybody deserves national health care. But if we all paid for it, boys and girls, then 330 million Americans would be able to go to the doctor whenever they want. And then if you needed say you might have cancer and you need to go to get cancer treatment, there'll be 10,000 people in your neighborhood on the waiting list. And then certain people wouldn't get care because they'll have to wait weeks, if not months, to get care. And socialism sort of sucks. About this, boys and girls, if every single person is equal, then the people that are a brain surgeon should be equal to someone that flips burgers at McDonald's, and everybody should receive the same exact pay. What's going to happen is the people that want to become brain surgeons or great rocket scientists or philosophers or teachers, they're going to be like, why am I going to do that? There's no incentive because I'm going to make the same amount of money as someone who flips burgers at McDonald's. So boys and girls, all humans are not created equally. Let's just admit it. About this, boys and girls, if every single person is equal, then the people that are a brain surgeon should be equal to someone that flips burgers at McDonald's, and everybody should receive the same exact pay. What's going to happen is the people that want to become brain surgeons or great rocket scientists or philosophers or teachers, they're going to be like, why am I going to do that? There's no incentive because I'm going to make the same amount of money as someone who flips burgers at McDonald's. So boys and girls, all humans are not created equally. Let's just admit it. Do you think me, someone who sits home with PTSD and anxiety, and the dogs are barking right now, and who has unruly dogs who, actually, it's like the wild, wild west here. There's no rules for the dogs. Do you think me, someone who has agoraphobia or never leaves the house, is worth more than somebody that goes out and heals people of cancer, like a doctor or a lawyer or even a judge or a police officer? Do you think I'm more valuable than them or equal? The answer is no. Modernism would say me, someone who just puts crappy content out on YouTube, is worth just as much as a brain surgeon. I really don't know where I'm going with this video, but the dogs sure want to tell you something. Here, let's listen to them. Really? You think modernism sucks too? Do you? Oh, you do? You don't want to be on a dog biscuit line instead of a bread line? Really? Oh, okay, thank you. Let's talk falafel. Let's talk philosophy. My philosophy. Yeah, that was a rap song back in the 80s. And yeah, let's do this while we're putting this together in the reliquary. All right, so I'm going to cut out a circle, and it's not going to be very neat, I can assure you. And why do I think modernism is the modern day devil, boys and girls? Okay, so basically, for example, women's rights. Now, I believe in women's rights, right? I'm not like denying women's rights, but women's rights has created a lot of bad things in society. So for example, when I was a little girl, my mother decided the grass was greener on the other side, right? My mother was like, yeah, women's rights, let's burn our bras. Instead of having a traditional childhood, I became a latchkey kid back in the 70s and 80s. And what is a latchkey kid, boys and girls? Basically, your parents decide that you need to grow yourself up and children should be seen and not heard. And so my mother decided she wanted to have a career. I have to just like blow this off. And my mother wanted to have a career, boys and girls. She thought women shouldn't be serving men sandwiches and being housewives. And because that's beneath women. So my mother got a job, and she spent so much time at the job that she wasn't home, and I got anxiety and panic attacks because I was left at other people's houses, boys and girls, all the time. Dropped off at other people's houses. At the school, either I had my own key to the house, and I had to let myself in at the age of 6 and make myself Lender's bagels, as an afternoon snack when I came home from school to do my homework and watch the Brady Bunch and Gilligan's Island. That my mother taught that was fantastic then, right? By the way, I blew the dust out of this. Okay. And so, yeah, you're going to see the process. The process is really fantastic and swell. Oh, we got to get this, okay, equalized. There we go, equal. Yeah, we need equal rights, boys and girls. And so my mother decided, also, the grass is greener on the other side, and went out and partied at Studio 54 almost every single night, boys and girls. What's Studio 54? Hedonism. Okay, it's basically a bunch of people wearing the latest, coolest outfits, and whoever looks the coolest gets invited in Studio 54 so they can hang out with Andy Warhol. And who is that other lady that used to ride? Was her name Godiva? She used to ride on a white horse naked going across Studio 54. And so in my house, modernism was dead. Basically, if you wanted to go to church on Sunday, it was, my mother slept in late because she was too busy partying at Studio 54 and working a full-time career when she didn't have to, because my father made enough money, and back then, women didn't have to work, boys and girls. They could let their husband be the breadwinner, because it was a traditional, unmodernist family, and then one person could bring home the bacon and afford all the costs and bills. So when women like my mother decided, we need careers too, then it became two people had to bring home the bacon. And now we can fast forward to 2025 where two people's salaries don't even pay the bills, boys and girls. And so I became the little match girl, basically. Okay, because my mother decided, it's not cool to have traditional values. And this is not centered. We have to get this centered. I have a little OCD. And so I'm going to place the cotton in here. We're gonna make Pope Pius venerated. We're gonna venerate the Pius of Pope, and we're gonna make him because he was right. So my mother thought the grass was greener on the other side. Then she decided one day marriage is for idiots. Marriage is for women that want to serve their husbands sandwiches and be their slaves. But that's not true. What's wrong with serving your husband a sandwich? He worked all day. He's bringing home the bacon so you don't have to go out and work. And why not serve him a sandwich, boys and girls? Became beneath people like my mother who were modernists. Yes, my mother was a hippie. And so hippies destroyed modern civilization. Hippies, basically, I smell hippies. Yeah, hippies suck. And so my mother thought she was like some cool hippie chick, right? And so she decided one day that she didn't want to be married anymore. And so when I came home from school, my dad was packing all his things and putting it in the car. And I said, Daddy, what are you doing? And he said, Mommy doesn't want us anymore. And so my father had to immediately find an apartment that didn't have 2 bedrooms, of course, because on last notice, you're not going to find an apartment with 2 bedrooms. And I had to sleep on the couch. My mother found a new cool guy to shack up with in our house. And my dad was paying the mortgage for a year like a schmuck, while another man moved into his house. What is the moral of this story, boys and girls? Because of anti-modernism, modernism, the family unit broke down, and kids like me had to become latchkey kids, basically cook themselves chef boyardee for dinner, while their mothers went out to Studio 54, and their poor fathers were flabbergasted. I became homeless because of modernism, and another man took my place in my house and became the king, like Elvis. So modernism is wicked. It's basically, what do they call it? Sodom and Gomorrah. Okay, Sodom and Gomorrah. It's wicked. People make their own rules. My mother said, I deserve to be happy. That was her thing. I deserve to. Guess what? None of us deserve to be happy. Happiness is not a privilege, boys and girls. And so most of us will carry the cross across Calvary to Calvary. Like Jesus, we're not going to be suffering as bad as Jesus. Well, some people, I've heard some stories that were really horrific. And so basically, none of us deserve to be happy. We're not all created equal. Me as a YouTuber, I'm not worth more than a rocket scientist, boys and girls. All know that if we got national health care or universal health care, guess what? We'll all be paying for some other schmuck that sits on their ass all day and plays video games or makes YouTube videos like me. Do you want to pay for me, boys and girls, my health care? I would really enjoy it. And I wouldn't have to pay out of my pocket for what my shitty insurance doesn't pay for my mental health care. And so that you'll be a sucker paying for it while I make YouTube videos all day. Ha 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 ha. And end of rant. All right, let's put this together. And we got our based Pope Pius, who taught us some lessons, boys and girls. Let's talk more. Let's do more philosophy. All right, so for example, the current Generation Z, which is my children's age group, I'm Generation X. I'm not a boomer. Don't call me a boomer. My mother was a boomer. Boomers were selfish, and they basically embraced modernism. And so my daughter tells me that when she goes on a date with her boyfriend, they have to go Dutch, boys and girls. When I was a teen, if a guy took me out to dinner and he wanted me to split the check with him, he never got a second date. Because I was traditional. I was a traditionalist. I believed that men need to pay the bills and women need to stay home and make a sandwich occasionally. And then the man will pay all the bills. And isn't it swell? And so my mother decided, and millions of other mothers decided that, let's go out and let's go to Studio 54 and party and have a career. All right, so he's in his reliquary. There we go. Beautiful. You should always venerate your relics. Place it in a reliquary. But what do we learn, boys and girls? That modernism turns everything to shit. And, excuse my language, sorry. And basically, my mom, on her deathbed, when she was dying of stage 4 lung cancer, said she was sorry. She wished she didn't do what she done, because even in her 70s, she had to still work because the guy she shacked up with and threw my father out of the house for ended up not being a breadwinner, boys and girls. He thought that women should go Dutch and he was a feminist too. And so my mother ended up having to work and commute 2 hours each way, 4 hours a day, to get to work until her dying last day on her deathbed, dying of cancer. And she was sorry that she became a modernist. What do we learn, boys and girls? If you become a modernist, you'll have to work 3 jobs just to pay your bills. And it's too late now because all these modernists ruined everything. And so now everybody has to struggle equally. Sure, like Elon Musk or Bill Gates or some other schmuck. They're really not schmucks because they're billionaires and they did something to get billions, whether they robbed us or cheated us or lied. And so basically, here we go, boys and girls. This is the Catholic a saint and a pope who told us that modernism is shiz. And what do you say? Right in the comments below. I'm as good as Plato, right? Who else were the great philosophers? I can't even think right now. But I'm telling you, listen to me. And maybe I might be up there with a brain surgeon.